got my Steam Deck, the first thing I did was install EmuDeck. I bought this device to primarily dock it to my TV and play PlayStation and Dreamcast games. At that time, I really wasn't thinking about how well the Steam Deck could run AAA games because I was only interested in taking Shenmue on the go. You have not lived until you've driven a forklift around while taking a dump. But a year later, I find myself trying out some of the bigger titles I would normally just play on my gaming PC to see how my Steam Deck can handle them. And to my amazement, most of them run like ass. When you go to the Steam store to buy a game and scroll down, on the right side is a bunch of info pertaining to the game's requirements and specs. If you keep scrolling, you come across the Deck Verified badge section. It's a rating system Valve uses to let you know how well a game will run on your Steam Deck or if it'll have trouble and need additional futzing around with. With the recent release of the Oblivion remaster, it's become very apparent to me that this Deck Verified system is flawed and sometimes a total lie. But before I dive into this video, a lot of you have been watching, which is awesome, but you're not subscribing. So please make sure you hit that sub button. If you do, I'll love you forever. Thank you. Bye. In my last video, I talked about how the Oblivion remaster was really showing the Steam Deck's age. My once top-of-the-line gaming handheld was struggling to play an almost 20-year-old game with a facelift. Luckily, a few people pointed out there is a mod that removes Lumen, some nonsense that comes with Unreal Engine 5 that causes the Steam Deck to run like ass. After installing it, my Oblivion remaster experience got so much better. The lagging and lighting were fixed, and it was actually playable. But the fact that this game was released and was instantly Deck Verified is a huge problem. My god, what is that, a fucking fighter jet? The same thing happened months ago when Spider-Man 2 dropped for the PC. Both of these games look and run great on consoles and the PC itself, but on the Steam Deck, not so much. People were confused why Spider-Man 2 was Deck Verified when it was running like absolute trash. A while after, Valve updated the Deck Verified badge to playable, listing that the game will need some settings to be changed in order to get it to run better. When you go to buy a game and are looking to install it on your Steam Deck, you will either see one of the following badges. Deck Verified, which is a green icon, and it means that this game is going to run great, no problems. Playable, which is a yellow icon, it means the game will function, but it'll require additional screwing around with some settings to get it to run better. Sometimes this icon also states that there are instances where you'll need to use a keyboard to input text. Unsupported means it's not going to work, forget about it. And unknown just means it hasn't been checked yet. This seems like a pretty straightforward system, but unfortunately, games tend to get released without having been truly checked. It wouldn't make sense for these AAA titles to be instantly Deck Verified when they all run at 60 frames per second, and the Steam Deck tends to struggle getting a graphics-heavy game to run just past 30. Most of these bigger games will drop down to 20 frames per second and run like crap. Games like Baldur's Gate 3, Cyberpunk 2077, and The Last of Us were all massive games that were Deck Verified when released on Steam, and absolutely 100% should never have been given that green badge. Many games like these seem to slip through the cracks of being actually tested upon release and are updated to playable down the road. So what should be done to fix what seems like a really broken system? Valve should be allowing games to be playtested by people for at least a week and then present us with a survey about how well it's performing. They can then make a real judgment call based on actual playtime and decide which verification it should receive. Of course, not everyone understands what they're looking for in terms of playability, so Valve could even open up a tester program and select gamers based on their playtimes from their Steam accounts to give the verification process more validity. This seems like a pretty straightforward system that Valve should be implementing to not quickly say a new game is Deck Verified when it clearly runs like ass. Another way Valve can fix this verification process is by making developers playtest on a Steam Deck of their own before fully shipping off their games to be sold on the Steam store. Obviously, the Steam Deck is not as popular as the PlayStation 5, but it does have a massive community supporting it still, and it should be treated with some respect. Both of these deck verification systems honestly would be a much better way to go about giving a green or yellow badge, rather than Valve just testing it themselves and then just changing its status after a few weeks because people have been complaining that Spider-Man 2 sucks ass on it. But I get it, Valve is the company who makes the Steam Deck, so they of course know the ins and outs of their device. That being said, my trust for their judgment has kind of gone out the window with this Oblivion release. I got the Steam Deck to download games and not have to tinker with anything to get them to run. That's why I returned the Asus ROG Ally. But it seems like a lot of these bigger games lately are really pushing the Steam Deck to its limits and require mods to get them to even run decently. If I was just entering the handheld space, I could see how the Steam Deck would be a turnoff in this situation. Kind of like how it's a turnoff every time I see myself naked in the mirror. Oh god, I'm so fat. Alright, so are you mortified with how Oblivion's remaster is running on the Steam Deck? Are there any other Deck Verified games that you just think run like ass on it? For me, every AAA title so far has kind of been a letdown down, and it's bumming me out because I don't want to have to upgrade to a PC gaming handheld device. Anyways, thanks to everybody who's been watching lately. Again, please make sure you subscribe. If you're enjoying the content, please subscribe. Share this video with a friend. All right, goodbye.